close, right? Tilt this up a little bit and a little bit down for Llewellyn. All right, thank you guys so much for allowing me to come and take some of your time today. My name is Kelsey Jones. I am here to talk to you about PANT, a nursing workload decision tool. And I'm most excited about that because it's right in line with everything that we've been talking about today. We are talking about how we want to stabilize our workforce. How do we continue to meet the demands of our community while we still navigate the challenges that we're facing as a healthcare? Things like high patient census, a more complex patient presentation. I mean, our patients are sick. They're sick when they're coming through these doors. And how do we do that within our given amount of staff that we have for that shift? And how do we positively impact their resiliency to continue to come back towards to future shifts? So what is PANT? PANT is the Patient Acuity Nursing Tool, and it came about when we had 2 clinical nurses over at Sentara Hospital that determined we lacked an evidence-based method to create patient assignments based on nursing workload. The Sentara system devoted time, effort, we built it into our nursing strategic plan, and we gathered a small group of people together to build a rules-based algorithm within the electronic health record that is calculating the amount of time it takes for us to provide safe, quality patient care by our direct patient care team. It is driven off of nursing documentation and physician orders. So it is patient-specific, and it is a reflective, accurate value of both patient acuity and nursing workload. This tool was made by nurses for nurses, and we utilized a customized to make strategy, if anybody's familiar with Six Sigma, for each iteration that we've done. We first started by collaborating with our subject matter experts. Those are your most knowledgeable people in the room. And once we had identified the people throughout our system that we could lean on, we identified the workload elements. And we did that through our nursing professional standards of practice, as well as our nursing competency tools. From there, we surveyed all of our direct patient care nurses across our 12 different hospital divisions within our system. And we asked them, how long does it take you to provide both direct and indirect qualities of care? So what I mean by that is, how long is it taking you to gather the equipment, perform the task, and then document on that task? Once we had the survey results, we obviously analyzed that again. And then we sat down with our direct care members and we identified the final amount of time that we wanted to attribute to each one of these nursing workload elements, and then the place that it lived within our electronic health record. And the reason why that's most important is because we did not just pull these numbers out of thin air. This is a direct translation of what our clinical team members said it takes for you to perform Foley catheter care or to ambulate somebody utilizing the walker. After that, we had a blueprint and we sat down with our IT system team members and we built the PANT algorithm. And we have some very straightforward rules, things like administering an oral medication. And we also have some very unique rules that allow us to differentiate between the patients that we are seeing. So whether that is a ambulating, walking, talking, no additional care, versus somebody who is bedbound, total patient care, has a high BMI, is requiring multiple people and equipment to turn every 2 hours. So that's just really, really neat. And then from there, we validated this algorithm. And I could spend literally hours talking to you about the validation process, but for the purposes of this, I will just simply tell you that we have done retrospective workload analysis in a variety of different ways. Some of those you're going to see in a little bit. And we also have done our real-time workload score analysis with our clinical team members. We're very proud of this tool. We've been developing it for years. So it started with our MedSurg foundational items. We had about 150 items that we identified first. And those were things that applied to our nursing basic care, right? Head-to-toe assessment, wound care, placing an IV catheter. And then over the years, so the last 4 or 5 years now, we have been adding in different iterations of that, different layers, so that we can better define the patients that you are seeing and taking care of. And then the other very cool thing about this that I think our leadership team can appreciate is that we're able to see this regardless of where your patients are located in the hospital. And that's important because, as we all know, when we have capacity issues, we are putting people in every single place in the hospital, right? And so sometimes when you're holding lower level acuity patients in a critical care setting, we can see that. Or the opposite of that, which we saw a lot during COVID, when we have those higher acuity patients that we are seeing in a med-surg or an intermediate level care that we would have typically seen in a critical care setting. I'm going to shift now to talk a little bit about how our clinical teams utilize this tool. So what we've done is we have asked our charge nurses to take an objective measure, which is the PANT tool, in combination with their clinical judgment. We know that you know best, right? You know the layout of your unit. When you talked about the horseshoe, that's an important element for us to be thinking about when we're making our patient assignments. You know your staff, who's orienting that day, who's able to actually do peritoneal dialysis correctly. Whatever that case might be. And so with all of those things in mind, we have to be mindful of what your grids have allotted you to have, the direct translation of how many staff you have for RNs or UAPs. And so what I have up here is a picture of a patient assignment, and it's just an example. But with PANT, you're able to see a color-coded score. And so one of our nurses is happy. She's rosy-cheeked. She has 5 low-level acuity and 1 average level acuity patient. That's blue for us, that's our color scoring. And the other nurse has 4 average level patients, 1 moderately high and 1 high acuity. And it ends up being about a 30-point difference in workload. Now, I had a little bit of fun when I was picking the emojis for this because I think everybody here has probably worked one of these shifts. And you might be leaving it feeling drained, as though you're a zombie. That's what I would call that emoji right there. And I think, though, I would argue that we could probably personify a variety of different emojis, right? You might be a red-faced emoji by the end of this shift, or the top of your head is glowing off. Or I also would argue that you might be tearful because you feel as though you were not able to provide the level of nursing care that you not only are capable of doing, but that you know our patients deserve. So that is what I'm talking about, y'all, when I say that we can more equitably distribute the workload. How is it that we can take Erica's assignment and make sure that she is not burnt out at the end of her shift and that she's not going to call out at 5:30 in the morning when you now have a vacancy to fill? We've talked a lot about the tools. I loved the presentation that was right before us. This is just another one of our tools that we've put in our tool belt to help us make decisions in a way that is going to build resilience within our team members. And if I'm also being very honest with this group, I think we all know that sometimes we cannot change the level of work that Erica is experiencing. And in those moments, we have to think creatively about how we design our staffing systems. I saw a poster that one of our team members had around just our care delivery models, and I know that there's many of us in this room have been utilizing creative ways with LPNs, with our UAPs, so that we can better foster that communication and the delegation that needs to occur within a team dynamic to support a heavy workload. Oh, I'm sorry.
Look, you did it and I did it.
There we go. Our leaders and executives at Sentara utilize our PANT tool because we know that data drives discussions. You have the confidence in your ability to speak to the patient's acuity or to the level of workload that is being required of your nursing care team. And so what I have is a picture up on the board, and you can advocate for your resources accordingly. So I'm going to give a quick shout out to Sentara Lead 2 West because I sneakily went in there and I snippeted a picture for this presentation a couple weeks back. And so what you're looking at is a total unit workload right here. What you may or may not know is that Sentara only has 24 bed units, and they have 25 patients on this unit. So that means they have one person in a surge bed. They were also down a nurse today on this specific shift, and they had to advocate for somebody to come in. And furthermore, their average workload is typically 160, 170s to 185, and they're currently at 205. So they have a higher workload. They were down a shift, or a nurse for the shift. And what they've done, without even having to prompt it, they've equitably distributed the workload amongst their team members. Their charge nurse has one patient. They have an orientee with 3, a preceptor who is overseeing that orientee in their 3 and has an additional 3. They have a couple nurses that are supporting that, and then 2 UAPs. I will also say, based on their grid, they should have had an extra care partner, but we won't get into that, right? We all know that sometimes that's not the case. But this can look in a variety of different ways. We know that we can have different dynamics that help offset that workload, or that your level of care might have a different number of people to work with, but that's what we're aiming for. The other picture that you're seeing is hard for you to probably see right now, but what we've done is we've attributed an average score for each one of our nursing units. And so we can look at that on a hospital level, we can look at that on a system level, and then furthermore, we can break that down into our nursing grid level so that you can see the variation in what our different teams are having to provide, what's being required of them. And so this picture in particular is our intermediate level care units. And so it ranges from scores of 8.79 all the way up to 14.5. And so that's quite a variation within just one level of care. And so that is just what's so cool about this tool, right? It's giving us the information to have more informed conversations with our non-nursing departments. So we've had some really great conversations with our process improvement team around staffing grids, and our finance team around the cost of nursing care. So in conclusion, PANT is another one of those tools. It's a nursing workload decision tool that you can utilize on a daily basis, and that we have the opportunity to look at on a historical level. It allows us to accurately measure our patients' needs. As we've heard today, we've talked about the uniqueness, the ability to identify what each one of our patients needs. This is a piece of that. It informs decision making while still being mindful of your team's resources and depth. You know best. This is not defining who and what, but giving you an opportunity to think through the how. And it provides us with the opportunity to influence both our resource allocation, our staffing grids, and our budgets. I know that I'm at time, but I will be staying after, and so I'll be up here at the front if anybody would like to talk through this a little bit more, if you have any questions. But I also am excited because we were recently published in American MedSurg Nursing, and so I might have a few of those copies as well if you'd like to take something home. But thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.